The Gayageum is a traditional Korean instrument. It dates back to around the 6th century. It's old, but its sound mesmerizes to this day. In today's Hallyu People, we meet with Dr. Jocelyn Clark, or Jocelyn, professor at Baekje University, who has been studying and playing Gayageum for over 30 years. Recently, she has earned herself the title of the first foreign Gayageum Sanjo licensee. So what that means and what Gayageum means to Professor Clark, we'll hear now as she is joining us on the show today. Professor Clark, welcome.
Hello,
Thank
Professor.
you very much. Thank you. Nice to be here.
So, Professor Clark, why don't we start with a brief introduction of yourself to our viewers?
Well, as you know, my name is Jocelyn Clark. My Korean name is Jocelyn, which I got when I arrived here in 1992. I grew up in Alaska, was born in Washington, D.C., and I actually came to Korea to study Gayageum across the street at the National Fugak Center. So, yeah, I've been studying since then. Now I'm a professor of East Asian Studies at Baekje University, where I also teach ethnomusicology.
And Professor Clark, we have to say congratulations that you became an official Gayageum Sanjo licensee.
Congratulations.
So first off, I mean, what is the significance of this designation and how do you feel about it?
Well, of course I'm very proud, but I'm also just doing what everybody around me has already done at a much younger age. But as a foreigner, I think it's quite significant because it takes a long time to learn music to some degree that you can be proficient in it. And I've been working for, as you said, 30 years or more to learn Sanjo. And for me, it's a kind of acknowledgement that I'm not just a foreign monkey, you know, playing around and interested in culture, but that I'm actually quite serious about it. So it indicates, both to me, for me, it's a personal milestone, but also I think it signals to the public that, you know, that they can believe their ears, maybe. And for me, I also think that it gives me an extra responsibility to keep learning Sanjo and to keep playing Sanjo, talking about Sanjo, introducing Sanjo. I think as we get, you know, more and more into the digital age, people know less and less about Korean traditional instruments. Certainly, my students don't really know very much about Korean traditional music. So, while at the same time I'm interested in doing new things with the Gayageum, I'm also have a responsibility now, an official responsibility to continue to study and play traditional music.
Wow. And you're probably a great example to other foreigners who really want to study Korean traditional music from now on.
Well, I hope so. I hope there will be some interest in it. So far, there's been interest in Kpop, and I think through Kpop, maybe you can get into some other, you know, aspects of Korean culture that are not the easiest ones to start with.
Right. So, you know, getting this license, Sanjo license, sounds like it's just the beginning of your journey, you know, not the end. It's starting, you know, another start.
It's not quite the beginning since I'm quite old now, and it's, you know, been 30 years playing, but it opens up, you know, that it shows you the mountain that comes next. Right.
Another beginning of
another
mountain.
step.
But we do want to hear about the process. Well, I know it's not an easy one, you know, for people who have been playing Gayageum for over 30 years, it's really hard for them. So please tell us about the process.
Well, Sanjo is a genre that sort of originated around 200 years ago. It's coming out of folk music traditions of Shinawi, also related to pansori. And originally it was improvisational, but when President Park Chung-hee established the intangible cultural asset system, people who were designated started to really work on organizing their Sanjo into something that was more stable in terms of transmission. Of course, you can still improvise, but in order to transmit something as a national treasure, then you need to have something that people can learn, right? So people really worked on their Sanjo, creating, in a way, they're kind of compositions that we memorize now, even though you can improvise within them. The Sanjo that I play is about 72 minutes, 74 minutes long. It's quite long. So in order to do this exam, you have to learn the whole thing, and you have to memorize the whole thing, and you also have to be able to play the whole thing convincingly. So it's basically, if you look at it in terms of, we don't read the score, but we have a score, and the score is, you know, over 120 pages or so. So you have to memorize that and then make music out of it, be able to improvise on the spot in terms of like the length of the sanjo. Basically, you have to be able to move around within the sanjo, understand the sanjo, and be able to really make beautiful music out of the sanjo. So this takes quite a lot of training. It's not just an overnight process.
It really does sound like a very difficult process. But Professor Clark, we have a global audience. How would you describe the instrument Gayageum to a foreigner?
So the Gayageum is a 12-string, usually in ethnomusicology or organology we say like a half-tube zither. It's a, you know, it's two boards. It's an upper board and a lower board with, you know, inside it's hollow like a violin or any other Western instrument. It has 12 strings stretched over it, and each string is stretched over a movable bridge called a anjok, which means a wild goose foot. The strings are made out of silk. That allows them to bend quite a bit. So in a way, it's like playing rubber bands, where, you know, when you play rubber band, you stretch them out and the sound gets higher, and you let it go, the sound gets lower. Right. So we push on the left-hand side of the bridges to make the sound go up or go down, and we can really make wide vibrato on the Sanjo Gayageum. This instrument is related to the Chinese guzheng, also related to the Japanese koto, other related instruments in Vietnam, the danchan. Up in Mongolia, they have another instrument, something like yatak, something like this. I never learned it from a Mongolian. Anyway, there's a lot of these kind of zithers around East Asia. They're quite popular all over East Asia, originating in China, but spreading out. And then, you know, as the instruments moved to different countries, they got picked up by musicians from those other countries, and they express quite different things in each country. So the instruments look the same, but they sound very, very different because, of course, the music is existing inside the person and not inside the instrument itself.
Wow, yes. And we all know that, you know, Gayageum sounds beautiful. So we want to hear where and how we can listen to Gayageum. I know, you know, there's a variety of ways to listen to it, from the traditional performance to even K-pop songs that are featuring Gayageum as well. So where can we listen to Gayageum?
Well, you know, traditional musicians are trying to figure out ways to go into the future in lots of different ways. So they're working with composers to create new music. They're working with pop musicians to create popular music, with jazz musicians, with kugak and jazz genre, all sorts of different things, and all sorts of innovations on the instrument itself. If you want to listen to Gayageum, if you're in Seoul, of course, or in Korea, you can listen to lots of live concerts. If you're international audience, the best place to go is to YouTube. These days we now have AI, so one of the things that's quite good with AI is translation. So you can put what you want to hear into an AI, ask it to translate into Korean, and then use that to go into YouTube, because a lot of the traditional music titles in YouTube, they're not in English. So if you really want to hear a variety of sounds, I would translate into Korean using an AI, either like Google Translate or Naver, some Papago, whatever you want to use, or, you know, ChatGPT, and, you know, put in what you want to hear, and then put that into YouTube and see what comes up.
Okay, we'll keep note of that. Now, Professor Tu, because but also Professor Clark. So I know that you've been playing a lot of instruments. I mean, also Western instruments like the violin and the piano, and also the other Asian instruments that you mentioned before. But why did you end up, you know, really going deep into Gayageum?
Well, when I first arrived at the National Kugak Center, I thought that the Gayageum would be similar to the Japanese koto, which I studied as a teenager, and also Chinese guzheng, which I studied in the beginning of the 1990s. And I found out that it's completely different. It looks the same, but totally different music, and I couldn't understand the music at first. I didn't understand the rhythm, I didn't understand the tuning, I didn't understand the sort of aesthetic expression, because one of the things we do on Gayageum is we dampen each string as we play the next, so there's no harp-like gestures on the Sanjo Gayageum in any case. So it took me a moment to sort of get into Gayageum and understand what it was, understand what it's trying to express. And once I spent a lot of effort to do that, then I kind of fell in love with the instrument. And I kept thinking, well, I want to be able to actually play this because the ones I hear, the teachers that are playing so well on the stage, they really sound great. So I want to try to sound like that, but it's taken me until now and longer into the future.
And now you're playing Gayageum for over 3 decades.
I know, but we've heard your play online, and it sounds beautiful, right? But I'm sure behind those works there are some challenges, some difficulties. Please share with us some of the difficulties that you experienced.
When I first came to play, I really wanted to practice hard and show that I was a serious person, but my fingers started to bleed within like 10 minutes. So I realized it takes a long time to build up the calluses. And if you don't practice, you get this problem over and over again. So you have to always keep your calluses in shape. And then it really takes a long time to understand like the beauty and the expression of each of the modes that is expressed on the Gayageum and in other 국악. And this is difficult not only for me but also for Koreans now because they grow up listening to Western music. K-pop is also, even when we think of it as something that's a Korean product, the basis of it is in Western music and a 4-beat rhythm. So also classical music. Whoever, if you grow up in Korea, you're mostly hearing Western music and you're not exposed to that much 국악. So it takes so long. It's like learning another language in a way, even though there's not really words to learn. Musically, you're trying to learn a new language, and in order to do that without an accent, it takes time for everybody. So I think this is the hardest part. Also, some of the older teachers are quite strong. Put it that way. Quite
we'll
strong.
Try to imagine what
old
that
school. Quite old school. So yeah, they demand a lot, and it's a kind of like a lifestyle. Yeah.
And you are a teacher yourself. That brings us to our next question.
Right. So you've told us your story about studying this Gayageum yourself, but you also teach as a professor in the field, and also I heard even K-pop. So what does that mean, that K-pop and collaboration with the traditional Korean music?
Well, I use those examples for students because it's easier for them to get into what I'm trying to actually talk about in the class. I'm interested in K-pop in terms of like global branding and this kind of questions of soft power. So I try to talk about music in that context in the beginning of our classes. So how can 국악 participate in this soft power, or what does 국악 need to do in order to grab your attention? And often they say, well, they need to do popular music, and then I show them all the popular music that the 국악 musicians are actually doing, but they don't know where to find that. They don't know where that is. They've never seen it. It's not being funneled into their SNS feeds. Like, it's not coming up on TikTok to what they're seeing. So they think the 국악 is just old, boring music, even though all the young 국악 musicians also grew up listening to K-pop and are quite, active in creating a 국악 for the 21st century.
Right. I mean, I love the pure sounds of Gayageum and other traditional Korean instruments, but having that fusion, that collaboration between K-pop and traditional instruments is also very unique. So, and it is a way for more people to get to know these traditional instruments. Now, finally, may we ask you, Professor Clark, what your ultimate goal would be, and are you also planning to become an official master of Gayageum?
What's the Korean for official master?
So after Sanjo, the next step would be?
Next would be the
after 이수자 would be
전수조교, and after that is a 보유자. I don't think those are my roles as a foreigner. It's not, and also I don't think I should have that kind of job. It's not for me. That's a job for Koreans to do, to take care of Korean music and teach to Korean practitioners. For me, my role, I think, is really to give 국악 another glance, just because I don't look Korean. And I think that causes people to turn their heads a little bit, to give 국악 another chance or give it another listen. So maybe it's getting some foreign attention, so then maybe we should also take a listen one more time to see what's happened in the past, in the recent past. For me, I'm pretty much doing what I want to do. So there's not really much to change. I want to make a CD of Sanjo, which I've been talking about for a long time and haven't had the courage to quite record yet. I want to write a book about, since I'm a professor, I have to write a book. So I have to write a book about Sanjo and Pyeongchang and these other, Gayageum related genres. So just, keep on keeping on the same path. The problem is that there's only 24 hours in one day. So, there's really not a lot of time. If you teach full time and then you try to play Gayageum on the side, it's full time and full time. So there's no free days. It's just every day, morning to night.
We're really happy to hear that you are happy with your current life. We can really feel that, the life with your Gayageum. And thank you very much, Professor Clark, for sharing your story with us today and for that beautiful music that you play. And of course, also for, spreading, making aware of the Gayageum instrument to people around the world. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
And thank you, Bella, as always, for your contribution. We're going to see you back soon.
Yes, I'll see you back soon.